So hi guys, this is Mike Kostyo. I'm the senior managing editor on the market intelligence team at Datassential. So as you might have seen, we've been doing a number of reports over the past few weeks that we've been releasing on the website, looking at consumer sentiment. Soon we'll have some reports on operator sentiment, just surrounding, what's going on right now. But really, the data only gets you partway there. We also wanted to combine it with some real world perspectives and what's happening in the industry and chefs and manufacturers and distributors and suppliers. But so this week we're going to talk to two individuals about the independent operator and just kind of a really wide-ranging but relaxed conversation. I know we all are listening to a lot of videos and webinars right now, so hopefully this is just an interesting, fun one about what's happening with the independent operator. Everybody has to pivot so much very quickly right now. How's it working? What is working? What's not working? What are people seeing? But I'm really excited to talk to Chef Zoe and Chandra from Plate Magazine. So Chef Zoe, if you just want to give us a little bit of your background, and then for people who are listening who are not from Chicago, just a background of the restaurant and what type of restaurant it is.
My name is Zoe Schor. I've been here in Chicago for almost 10 years. I have a restaurant called Split Rail. It's on Chicago Avenue, like in Chicago's West Side. We do still, even though we're suspended on operations, we do still have a location at the Timeout Market here in the West Loop. I also own a cocktail bar downstairs from the restaurant, which of course the operations for Dorothy are also suspended presently. In terms of what kind of restaurant we are, it's actually kind of interesting as we talk about pivoting. We opened as sort of your upscale casual or casual fine dining restaurant that you're seeing more and more of over the last 5 or 10 years. I wound up having to make a pretty big pivot about 1.5 years, almost 2 years ago, to a more casual model. And so our focus is sort of fried chicken and biscuits. But if I had to really put it in a box, I would just say like American comfort food driven, but definitely a casual neighborhood restaurant. And so I think we're sort of poised to fare fairly well in terms of continuing to provide the same resource we've always provided to our neighbors, as opposed to some downtown restaurants or restaurants that really rely on large volume from tourism or, conventions, things like that. We've always just sort of relied on our neighbors to come in and have dinner.
Awesome. And Chandra, we know each other, but I'll still let you give your background. And I'm sure most of the people listening also know Plate Magazine, but even just a brief intro to Plate would be great too.
Yeah, sure. For any of those sinners out there who haven't gotten on board, I'm Chandra Ram. I'm the editor of Plate Magazine. Plate is a food magazine geared towards chefs. We do, for each of our 6 print issues a year, we do a deep dive in a cuisine, in a style of cooking, in a cooking technique, an ingredient, anything like that. And then we also put out 4 newsletters a week where we talk about recipes. We have a newsletter that's all the openings and closings and chefs moving around every week. And then we do a couple of newsletters where we focus on blogs. We do a lot of first-person accounts from chefs. We also have this blogger, Mike Kostyo. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he writes about food trends for us. We're just here to really focus on food, but to do everything through the chef's perspective. Weeding out some of the home cook style things and really focus on what independent restaurant chefs are interested in.
And so what was that conversation like when you found out that you were closing immediately? Were you already doing delivery at that point?
Yeah, we do delivery and we do takeout. So I think, probably this was going to come up at some point, but I think everyone's aware of the sort of slightly questionable tactics of GrubHub over the last 1.5 weeks. So we've always used GrubHub as we view it as a necessary evil. I'm going to try to be respectful, but I'm not happy with them. They take a 30% cut of our deliveries, but they also provide a lot of business. As an independent operator, it's impossible to have the kind of data that would allow you to say how much of this business will we be getting anyway. That's just impossible. And so we trust that they offer us a certain amount of business, and we've used them. So we read and saw that they were suspending their commissions. That's what all the articles said. That's basically what they said in the part of the press conference with the mayor that I saw. And so we were sent an email that said simply, do you want to opt in? And I clicked opt in before I even looked too closely at it. And then I read a letter later on that day from the CEO that said they were deferring their commissions, and that felt really different from suspending. So I dug a little deeper, and not only were they deferring commissions to get repaid starting in about a month's time, but they also, when you hit opt in, one of the like fine print that they didn't advertise was that you were opted in for a year. So you basically were signing a year's agreement. So we have gotten them to opt us out to get rid of that 12-month commitment, and we're not going to be using GrubHub anymore. I think it was just like really bad behavior towards like your restaurant partners that they said were like, you know, the lifeblood of their restaurant, of their industry. You know, suspended and deferred are not the same. And all the fine print that came along with that deferral is really disheartening. It's sort of like them looking at their own bottom line, and rather than saying, how can we work together? It was like, how can I fool people who are totally panicked that their industry is collapsing in on itself into thinking that we're giving them a good deal so later we get more money? It's like not a good look, in my opinion.
And is that what you're hearing, Chandra, too? Like, because you talk to a lot of chefs and you have a lot of friends who are chefs, like, because the delivery thing in general, I know, you know, we've seen things about which service as a consumer should I be using. And what are you hearing from chefs as far as delivery? I know I've seen a few that have even dropped some of the services and just started offering it themselves.
Yeah. And I think that that's, you know, that's a really tough thing to do quickly, to pivot towards quickly. But I'm personally telling people to just call the restaurant directly or see if there's any way to order directly from the website, because yeah, I have other friends like Zoe who were just blindsided by the fact that it wasn't waived fees as was announced, but it was deferred fees, and it came with a year-long contract. So with GrubHub, so you know, it's crazy because there's been so much pushback in the last couple of months before COVID-19 really hit about the delivery services, and chefs saying, how is it my restaurant doesn't offer delivery, but I'm getting complaints from someone who ordered food from it an hour ago. And so I think this is going to really push a big reckoning. And, you know, even when we all get out of this sort of panicked mode, this real crunch time where delivery is and carry out are the only way to do it, I think there's going to be a lot of hard conversations about how and why some of these companies were using a global pandemic as an opportunity to make money instead of actually showing their partnership and affinity for the industry. So yeah, I do know a couple of people who were trying to see if they could take servers they would have to lay off otherwise and turn them into delivery drivers. And then they just said, like, that is just the pay, you know, it's not going to make up the lost pay. And it's putting them at risk. It's
right. There are insurance issues too that go into.
Yeah. So there's the insurance problem with that too. So I think it is going to push a lot of restaurants, you know, chefs and restaurateurs to say, how can we do delivery and do it in a way that that isn't sort of destroying part of our business?
I would take the moment to plug who we do use. So the only one we use anymore is a company called Chow Now. And what I like about them is they don't have a huge, in my opinion, they don't have a huge reach themselves. Like, they're not providing orders the way GrubHub does, but they charge a flat fee so there's no commission. All the commission stuff is not a thing. And then they work with some delivery companies. So with us, they work with DoorDash, and we do pay a small fee for every DoorDash delivery given, but it's a $1 fee. It's not 30%. And so we're actually like, there's more of a true partnership there, where it feels more like they're there for us and not just themselves, because they just want us to be successful. GrubHub, in similar fashion to Open Table over the years, has sort of held restaurants over a barrel where you don't have a lot of options because they have such a huge percentage of the market share. And so I think this might be a good opportunity for us to reclaim some of that. I mean, all independent operators, and say, okay, well, there aren't as many restaurants open in Chicago right now, so this is easier for me to get my name out there and for people to find me. And so maybe when we come back from this, I won't ever have to use GrubHub again. That's the hope. We've canceled GrubHub.
Because on the so one of the things I think we keep hearing about is like now we're seeing so many people who hadn't even used delivery services before this happened start to use delivery services. Like my parents used a grocery delivery service yesterday, which is their first time in their lives using any type of delivery service like that. So, I mean, do you think, and I know it's hard to know right now, that there's like from the consumer standpoint, that there will be even more delivery after this is over?
Interesting, because I'm sure there are people who are going to say like, oh, wow, like this is great. And I'm getting all of these different meals. I personally can't wait to go back into restaurants.
That's what I think is going to happen.
And I kind of want to go to restaurants and then just start hugging people, which is obviously going to also feel weird and probably shouldn't happen. So immediately, at least. So I just want to get back to being around humanity. But I also think that, you know, we're in such a weird place where there's restaurants that offer delivery now and will stop doing that after the the crisis has shifted a bit. And as well, we're seeing a lot of food that isn't ever available at the restaurant suddenly be what this restaurant is known for.
Mm-hmm.
So you're seeing kind of fine dining restaurants saying, oh, okay, well, here's like a lasagna and here's chili and all of this super, super homey stuff. And I think it's great because it's the type of food that can stand up to delivery. It's
Sure.
the type, you know, it's homey, it's easy for a group of people to split and that, but it's not really representative of the restaurant. So they're going to wind up in a little bit of a situation when they open up again and people are like, oh, what do you mean I can't get like the sort of like mama's meatballs kind of thing? And they're like, oh yeah, no, sorry, we're actually like upscale Mediterranean.
But I like the idea. I really like the idea of, you know, everybody's talking about what comes next and we'll see, you know, how long this lasts and what happens. But I like the idea of reinvention happening right now, and that maybe what a restaurant was known for isn't what A, they will be known for after this, or B, what you need to be known for all the time. You know, as a restaurant that has already done a pretty significant pivot, one of the things that I'm looking for right now is feedback from my guests about what they'd like me to be providing. We are a neighborhood restaurant that we have people who eat in here 4 or 5 times a week sometimes. What do they want me to do that's different that I could do more easily? Because it's easier to update an online menu than it is to update a paper menu or to ask your servers to be like, sorry, we're out of half the menu, but we have this extra 18 things I can tell you about. You know what I mean? There's a freedom to this that does not exist if you're a restaurant that has a printed menu that doesn't get reprinted every single day. That I think is really kind of like special and glorious. And I think that like, if a fine dining restaurant has incredible chefs who make the best lasagna you've ever had, why should they stop making that when this is over? And why do we need to be so narrowly defined as restaurants? And I'm looking forward to the opportunity to make some dishes that we used to make on our old menu, make things maybe we've never made before, and sort of trying to, in addition to like all of the fear and the planning that goes into it, also like revel in this opportunity we have right now to do things completely differently than we've ever done before.
Because what are you offering? Right? Is everything you're offering right now something that was previously on the menu, or have you developed things just for this?
So for right now, it's mainly stuff that was available on our menu 2 weeks ago or whatever, but we've been streamlining some things. As we weren't sure whether the governor was going to let us keep operating, we tried to order really light, and then we're trying to like move through stuff we have, like, you know, pantry staples like grains and stuff that are just like kind of kicking around. But like yesterday, we did Taco Tuesday and we did 4 tacos with like a to-go margarita package because you can sell like a whole bottle of tequila as long as it's still sealed up, and like lime juice and agave and salt and whatever. And we had a lot of fun developing those tacos. And again, like it'd be harder in the restaurant to have the server tell you there are 4 different tacos or to print it out. And then as we ran out of one, to then be like, oh, sorry, we're out of that one. Let's do a different one. It's a lot easier online, you know? So that's what we did. We did 4 different tacos with things that I had on hand, kind of playing around with things. And when something ran out, I did something different. And we updated the online description. And so, you know, today I was in the middle of making a new salad when I started this that I'll put online later. And tomorrow we're going to do ramen when it starts raining again. And we're just going to have some fun with it. I've gotten some feedback on Instagram that people want to see the chicken nuggets that we used to be kind of well known for. So I'm going to make chicken nuggets sometime this weekend when I've got free time, you know, stuff like that.
Is this an appropriate time for me to completely hijack this interview and make a request for the baked potato gnocchi? Is this the moment? Because
sure.
I still think
absolutely. I just made some like a couple weeks ago, truly, and ran it as special, but we could do it this week. I have more free time. Like we're still working like 60 hours a week, you know what I mean? Give or take, but that's not as much. That's way less than I usually work. And And we don't need to be like, okay, it's 5 o'clock, go time, lights down, music up, unlock the doors and make sure that like everything's in place. It's a lot more casual. And I think that casualness will lend itself to creativity and creative development once we get past like this running around panicked phase that some of us are still in a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, and is that what's working too? Because I noticed you said that you were going to introduce a salad, because it definitely feels like we've seen a lot of casual comfort foods like that are, that's what's being offered right now. Is that what's working for you guys? Or do you think like now we're getting to the point where people are like, okay, I need to start eating healthier again?
I think that's what's going to happen. I mean, I can only look at my small section of the market or whatever, but I think that our regulars who are awesome people and like love coming through here and saying hi and picking up their food, can't eat fried chicken 7 days a week or 6 days. We've said to close on Monday so we can take a day off. But, so I am going to make this salad. I'm thinking about bringing some lighter options, some fish options, things like that. And again, not having to reprint the menu every time I make a change or make, 4 servers memorize a bunch of brand new dishes gives you a lot more freedom. All I have to do is put it on Instagram, put a caption on it, and then throw it onto the Chownow website, and the rest of the work gets done. It's so much easier. And so it really does, like, I'll make a salmon dish probably tomorrow. I'll get some salmon in, and if it goes well, I can do it again. And if it doesn't, I can eat it for family meal. You know what I mean? Like, we just have a lot more freedom, I think.
Sure, yeah. And I mean, that freedom, like we're seeing a lot of creativity. I mean, not just on the menu and just even the types of services being offered. Like Chandra, I mean, like, what are some of the creative ideas that you've seen out there that people are implementing?
I think the fact that more and more cities are allowing bars and restaurants to sell liquor to go has been huge. Certainly from a financial point of view for people, as Zoe said, she can sell tacos and she's going to have a certain profit level at that. But then if she sells a margarita kit with that and a full bottle of tequila and, a margarita mix that they make, and, that's a whole different opportunity for her. I think it's a way to make it fun. Like you said, so many of us have been doing, I'm invited to doing online happy hours. Like I'm invited to a friend's birthday party tomorrow night, and there are 30 of us, except we're all dialing in. So I'm not really sure what we're going to do. But chaos, right? I'm sure the internet's going to be able to take that. But I think those are really fantastic. We ran an article on Plate's website yesterday about Canela, a restaurant in San Francisco that's Spanish. And the chef, Matt, the chef owner, said, normally he can't do paella because it's so time consuming and requires a good amount of tending over, that when his restaurant's busy, he doesn't offer it. But now he can make these paella kits. And so you can decide if you want, chorizo, if you want seafood, if you want a vegan base. You get the bomba rice, you get a seasoned stock, you get the spice mix, you get a recipe card. He said he's even adding on an option if you want to buy a paella pan, and those are doing so well. So he said it's this balance of all the ideas coming in, plus figuring out how they can pull it off. But he's doing brunch kits now. I think those things are cool. I love all the cocktail kits. I love just like the little detail. There's a Nietzsche, a pizza place in Denver, is offering, and I think it's free, just an add-on. If you request, you can get some extra uncooked pizza dough with your pizza delivery, so that your kids can play with pizza dough and learn how to roll it out and, I don't know, plaster it on the walls, whatever it is children do. But I think some of those things are really cool, that the opportunities that chefs are finding. I hope that they are profitable enough, and I also hope they're able to keep them up afterwards, because like Kopitiam in New York is doing Malaysian kaya toast with a special like Malaysian kaya jam and everything on it. So it's like, it would be like a lovely thing to buy as a, send somebody as like a little gift anyways. So I think we're seeing some really cool stuff. I just hope it adds up to being able to keep the restaurant surviving during this time.
Just to shout out Brian Jupiter, who's a chef that anyone in Chicago who's in the industry knows pretty well. He's always out and about and doing things, but he's doing a cool thing. He seems so prepared for this. It's almost like, I was still scrambling to get everything together and he was right on top of it, but he did a online cooking demo yesterday, like a cooking class where people could buy the ingredients ahead of time. So you could like cook it along with him, which I thought was like really brilliant and a great way to monetize without just being like, pay me for this information I already have. They bought the ingredients from him. So that, that's the financial aspect. And then Brian just led this sort of like Instagram live video, whatever you call those things, and did this cooking class and people got to make it and then send in photos of themselves making it and stuff. And it was very cool and very interactive. And I think, you're seeing more of that kind of stuff. My partner owns an event space where obviously they've had to cancel all their events. And so they just had their first live streaming event on Monday night, again, via Instagram Live, where like 60 of us tuned in and watched this young woman perform from her bedroom, but she did it on the event space, which is called the Martin here in Chicago, did it on their Instagram feed. So she was able to access the Martin's contacts and followers, and still got some new followers, new people seeing her stuff that never seen it before, myself included, without leaving her home. And so I think you're seeing a lot more of that kind of thing.
And yeah, because how are either of you keeping in touch with either, your readership or your customers or fellow chefs, or because in a weird way, we are seeing a lot more of that where, people are at home and they also feel for their neighborhood restaurant and, want to support it. Are you doing anything like that? Are you doing classes or webinars or whatever it may be?
We're not doing anything like that yet. We've definitely talked about it. We've had a ton of support from the neighborhood, and frankly, the weeks leading up into the governor shutting restaurants down, we had some of our busiest weeks we've ever had. So I think going into probably next week, we're going to try to come up with some more creative ways to just like create engagement and keep things interesting. Just again, because we are a creative profession in creative pursuit more than any other thing. It's not really, staying profitable is ideal. I don't know if it's realistic, but it's ideal. But it's really about continuing to push ourselves to see again how we can reinvent ourselves in this period, because we're not talking about a week or 2 weeks, and we're already halfway through the second week. This is not a 2-week thing. This is not a 3-week thing. We need to reimagine the restaurant that we are right now for the time being, because this is the reality, and how we can again engage our diners, engage our neighbors, be productive and be, productive members of this community, of our society, because this is not going away by Easter, I don't think, no matter what Donald Trump.
Yeah. And then, Chandra, because I don't know how much you can see, on the Plate website just in the past week or so. What are people looking at? What are people looking to you for? Everybody's had to kind of change tactics and, put new things on the menu so quickly. Are they searching out comfort food recipes or anything like that?
There's definitely recipe searches leaning in that direction. We frankly made some tough choices in changing our coverage because, like I said, normally our Monday newsletter is all recipes, and we were just kind of last Monday, okay, well, this isn't the time to start throwing out recipes and pretending that none of this is happening. And we're taking a break for a couple of weeks from our Chefs on the Move newsletter because all of that is changing so much. Restaurants are changing their hours, their days, their, people are closing, and we hope it's just, until the, until this really horrible time kind of shifts a bit. So our coverage has gotten to be just, incredibly service oriented. We're getting a lot of traction with we have an ongoing feature that is resources for restaurant workers who are now unemployed. And so that's a piece on our website that we update every day. It has national resources and then state by state restaurants. The chef Edward Lee out of Louisville, Kentucky, has a foundation called the Lee Initiative, and they've partnered with Maker's Mark and are doing community kitchens and pantries for unemployed restaurant workers in 11 cities now, partnered with chefs in different cities. So we've been writing about that. We're getting a lot of personal stories. I think anytime you're going through something difficult like this, it helps to know, even if somebody else doesn't necessarily have the answer for you, it helps, I think, to hear their story and hear that you're not the only person in that situation. So, so we're really focusing a lot on those areas. I've been just trying to write blog posts that make sure chefs know that we're here with them, and how much we know that there is no life as we know it without restaurants. There isn't. I think it was the headline of the editorial in the New York Times yesterday that Tom Colicchio and a few others wrote. It said there is no America without restaurants. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to make sure that people know that we're on their side. We've got pieces coming out about what does it mean for restaurant workers who are undocumented and so are not going to be eligible for a lot of the aid packages. What can be done? Where can they find help? What can we all do to help them? Finding out what's happening with insurance companies and what's covered and what isn't, which is a huge issue.
Nothing as far as I can tell.
Yeah. And it's interesting because some of them are saying, oh no, it's just that it's this kind of policy. And I'm like, I don't know, if a pandemic isn't an act of God, then what is? But, and
can you talk about the petition, to just the development of the petition and kind of where it stands right now?
Yeah. So I guess this is over a week ago. Andrew Friedman, who is a food writer and hosts a podcast, Andrew Talks to Chefs, and very involved in the chef world. He and I are, worked together several times. He writes for Plate. We've done some things together. And we're also good friends. And he texted me and said, hey, we should do something. And so we put together a letter and got a small group of chefs around the country to be lead signatories on a petition that we put up on change.org. And it's really something that the chefs were driving. And, Alice Waters is one of the signatories, Will Gadara, the restaurateur, Jeremy Umansky from Larder in Cleveland, Michael Galata, Marijuana Rani, Chidu Kumar. There's chefs around the country who did this. So we got it up on change.org. It has over 300,000 signatures, which has just blown us away. I think we both thought like 10,000 people will sign this and then it'll mean something, it'll do something. So what we are doing right now is we're trying to pivot from just saying, okay, yes, I agree with this, to how we can turn this into some actionable change and affect some change. So we're actually partnering with the Independent Restaurant Coalition, and which is very like-minded, has a restaurant, saverestaurants.co. And they're going to basically take ownership of that list and of the petition and use it to push, because they are partnering with people in Washington who can actually push for more of the change that we need to save independent restaurants. So things like, an income grant program for income replacement, making sure that any relief for restaurants isn't limited to just large restaurants. We've talked about, other things like working with chefs and restaurant owners so that they can get either no interest loans or, just a bailout. If we can bail out airlines and we can.
Yeah, the hard thing about the loans, even no interest loans, is, and then pay them back with what? I mean, I'm loath to take a loan because we're already not making ends meet as an independent restaurant with the costs that we have. And so if you take this loan, if you take GrubHub's offered deferrals, if you take any of this like money that's being offered right now and pay it back with what? Like,
right.
I think that there is this, that's part of the reason we're still open. I mean, basically my philosophy around still being open right now is, we have a certain level of obligation to our community, to the people who work at the restaurants. So we're definitely have to lay off a lot of people, but we're keeping most of our kitchen intact, to our neighbors who dine with us, and also to the economy in general of like if we can only put half of our team onto unemployment instead of the whole team, that's helpful. And so that's sort of, we're looking at it through the lens of like, what's our obligation to try to put our fight into it as well as much as we can, as long as we're all healthy, which we are, and we're having good practices, which we do. And I think that like the scary thing about all these loans that are floating around is low interest, no interest, some interest, whatever. If you take a 10 or a 50 or $100,000 loan right now, what do you pay that back with?
Right. It's not like you guys were like, oh, the profit margins are so high anyways, we'll just pay it back in the summer.
Right.
So,
there's no time for us where we have extra money to pay anything back. And so we're staying open to try to make ends meet so that we don't have to take on any loans, because if we do, it's just one more bill we won't be able to pay at some point.
Yeah, because I mean, one thing we've been asked is, to what extent is the model right now? I mean, I don't want to say working because it's not, working, but I mean, we saw some restaurants that were offering takeout and delivery. And then after, a few days, they were like, this is just not going to be sustainable for us.
Right.
Like earlier this week or late last week, they were like, we're, going to shut down or write it out. I mean, like, where are you guys at right now as far as, what takeout and delivery is doing for you? Can you get by like with a few more weeks or indefinitely or?
I think it remains to be seen. My partner and I had sort of agreed that as long as we were meeting the burden of our labor costs and our food costs, that we would stay open. So, in terms of deferrals, we're deferring paying rent for right now, which, our landlords are partners in theory, in the sense that they have a vested interest in us being in their building and they're not able to replace us. So that's already, that sum of money is money we'll have to pay back and lump into either paying back in installments or just taking the rent for the rest of the year once we can start paying rent again and adding that in, so there's already these added costs that are coming into play. But I think it remains to be seen. Again, a lot of how we're making these decisions is through the lens of what's our obligation, who's our obligation to. There may come a point where restaurants being open is having an unsustainable impact on the way the virus is spreading. There may come to a point where we don't have enough to-go orders to justify it, or we could get busier. I really don't know. I mean, people do need to eat, and it is only the middle of the second week. I do fear that as, the stock market is quite volatile right now, and as people are getting laid off, and then some people I know are being asked or told to take pay cuts, whether that's pay that'll be paid back in back pay or not, I don't know, but people are taking pay cuts, seeing their business shrink. At some point, all these people who are working from home aren't going to have anything to work on.
And how do you plan for that? I mean, how are you even ordering right now?
Every day is a mystery. Like if the governor tomorrow decides to shut down everything, I don't want to have ordered for the weekend. Mm-hmm. Obviously, nothing's going to go to waste. We'd give it to our team members, we'd give it to neighbors or whatever. But still, like if we spend a couple grand ordering up for the weekend and then we can't use that product, that's going to put us out of business just as readily as anything else. So, I mean, lightly, carefully, thoughtfully, and again, trying to find this balance of like, it's easier to order things that can either be put in a freezer or sit on a shelf, because at least it's not a full total loss, but that's not necessarily what people want to be eating right now. So if I don't order any greens or I don't order any vegetables, are people even going to want to order from us for as long as they can? So it's kind of an impossible equation.
But how do you think it will change things when it's over? Whenever that is. I know it's an impossible question.
I think a lot's going to change. I think it's weird how quickly we're adapting to this. We're like to Chandra's point about like going to restaurants and hugging people. Like I've talked to a lot of my friends and family about like this phenomenon of like watching TV and be like, oh no, stop touching each other. You're not supposed to be doing that. Like you're watching TV, even new TV that is, like was just filmed not that long ago, where they didn't know how drastically the world was about to change. I mean, I watched last week Top Chef season premiere, which is like my show. I love that show. They filmed this whole season not knowing how much their whole industry is about to change. It's so weird to just like watch chefs run into the kitchen, start cooking, and not know what's happening in this world that we're living in now. And I think things are going to change a lot. And I think the way people interact is going to change a lot. And I think that one of the reasons that I would push the most for, like, how Chandra, you were saying, like in California, they're allowing people to sell cocktails. And so we can't do that. We can sell like a whole bottle of tequila or a whole bottle of wine, but we can't make a cocktail and send it home with you. But that's starting to change. And I think the biggest push, the biggest reason that I would push that is that I want us to maintain some level of normalcy, because I think that people adapt very quickly. And if we adapt very quickly to being this antisocial, all online society, that really scares me. I think we are already moving too quickly in that direction anyway, too much online dating, online interacting, and not enough like real life interactions. And I think it would be very easy in this climate to become very xenophobic, to become very even more poised to disagree with people who don't think the same way you think, and to move away from like the way we've socialized as a society. And I think that it's really important that we keep that, and we keep that like contact and interaction, and that we don't just hole up inside of our houses. Even if we hole up inside of our houses for a month, even if all of us had the funds to do that, which I don't. I mean, if we close the restaurant, I'm in as much trouble as anyone else. What do we come back to at the end of that month? You know, and so I think it's important that we maintain some level of connection and connectivity and interaction, and not become so conditioned to fear being around people that we can't come back to like regular life from the second.
Yeah. And I'm not, I mean, you know, of interaction and connecting with one another. I think, you know, politically, yeah, you know, we're still very far apart from each other, but there have been some really great stories that have come out of this. And I don't, even when I leave the house and I go to the grocery store, it feels like people are looking out for each other, and that, you know, the neighborhood feels a little bit more connected than even it did before this. I mean, I want to end on somewhat of a high note. I mean, is there any story, Zoe, is there, you know, like a customer, an employee or something, just that like something nice that came out of this in the past couple of weeks?
Oh, there's been so much. I mean, there's been so much incredible outpouring of support. We wound up putting together GoFundMe for our team who aren't working, which is kind of, I'm excited to support the team, but I think it's tricky because all these individual restaurants are putting together all their individual GoFundMes, and it winds up kind of being like almost like a popularity contest as opposed to doing something a little bit more universal where we can all like draw from the same well. But, you know, we put together a GoFundMe that's raised about $4,000 in the last week that we're really excited to like give to our team members who aren't working right now. And just watching those numbers rack up has been huge, really touching. Watching like the huge tips that come in with the to-go orders that are obviously again going to our team and will help people is really touching. I actually think it was Chandra, I think it was something you wrote that I read, was the first person that I saw saying like have people buy gift certificates to restaurants, gift cards to restaurants. And then, you know, I've seen a lot of that publicized over the last couple of weeks. So we've sold a ton of gift cards, which is like a huge showing of support, because obviously a gift card is kind of like an unsecured loan. And right now, while the restaurant industry is pretty you know, the future is uncertain, it's showing a lot of faith. And actually one of the coolest things, a ceramic artist that we've worked with before, he's a collage artist, and he did a collage for us, put together a mug that's like a split rail custom mug that he's taking a small percentage of the profits, but most of it's going to go back to our team as well. And that was his idea. You know, that wasn't something I asked him to do. It was something he asked if he could do. And it's a huge showing of support as well, these beautiful custom mugs that he's hand making. And so there's all this incredible support. And I think guests who keep showing up, who say thank you for being here. We got this really, really sweet note from somebody who's picking up food that just said like, thanks for everything you're doing for our neighborhood all the time, but especially right now. You know, people are writing us notes and putting posts on their social media and giving us money and time and buying product and shouting us out. And it's been like a ton of positivity, you know? And we feel very thankful just every day that we have enough to go to sustain another day of business. We feel very thankful for it. And all of our team too, who just keep showing up and who want to be here and be a part of it and are happy to still have their jobs. I mean, it really, we feel very thankful and grateful and positive every day in spite of what's happening in the world. It's probably doesn't hurt that I don't ever have to go to the grocery store ever. So,
and same question to you, Chandra. Yeah, just the positive things that you've seen come out of it.
I mean, I think it's the change in social interaction. I mean, when I'm trying to go to the grocery store less often, and but I go to a small grocery store, a small independent grocery store. I don't go to a big supermarket. And last time I was there, you know, the guy behind the meat counter was like, "Hey, you know, take care of yourself, stay safe." And it's heartrending in a lot of ways, but it's also, you know, we're taking time to personally like thank people for still being open, for still cooking food, for still, running their grocery store, so that, I think there is that appreciation of it. And I'm seeing that with any, interaction I have, if it's picking up takeout, if it's, even going to the drugstore to pick up a prescription or something like that, is that we're all realizing, the small things that we took for granted are really nice, lovely things. And I've noticed as well, a lot of my friends want to, who normally don't live near me, and we normally just text. We're doing phone calls again, which feels very 15, 20 years ago, but we want to have personal interaction. And so I think that, that if we're in a world where we're appreciating each other as human beings, and how much, we enjoy having that connection, even if it's someone you don't know, but you see regularly, just the fact that maybe moving forward, instead of just sort of like, oh, there's the guy who works at the store, it's like a smile and a wave, or it's saying hello or something like that. And yeah, spending less time being disconnected. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. Yeah. This was great, you guys. This was such a good conversation. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you were like, I just wish I could have said X, or anything like that?
I think for me, I think we covered a lot, but I think the biggest thing is I think that we all need to maintain this positive outlook. I think a lot of people are acting like there was before and there's now, and now is an in-between. There's going to be an after, and I think we need to plan for that after. We might not be able to plan the date that we're going to reopen, but we need to plan for what this future looks like and believe that it's going to happen, or else I think, I think that that optimism, that positive energy is really necessary to get through this time. And, we're seeing a lot of that from our guests, and a lot of support and positive energy from our guests. And we're just trying to put that back out there. I think that's important for all restaurant people and all people, is just to remember that this is just something that's happening right now, and there will be an after to this.
Well, I just want to thank Zoe and Chandra for joining me today, and for you guys for watching. I think it's clear that there's a lot of issues that we're going to have to deal with in the months and even years ahead. But I think there's things to be positive about and to be thankful for too. This is the second in our series of videos, so we'll continue to upload videos to the Datassential website, bdOUZ.com. Just click on that button in the upper right-hand corner, and you can see all the videos in the series as we release them, as well as all the reports that we'll release in the upcoming weeks. And of course, follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter, and you'll also see updates for when we release the reports and videos as well. And thank you for joining me.